ask that indeed you bestow upon our speaker wisdom, insights, and depth of understanding to be able to proffer solutions to every singular conversations we'll have here today. In the end, Jesus be glorified. In Jesus' name, we have prayed. Amen and amen.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's conversation with my darling sister Ajola. She is going to be our mentor for this quarter at the Association of African Startups. Every quarter, we have one quarterly mentoring section with a renowned expert in whatever field we think or we deem fit. This quarter, it is Ajola we're going to be having a conversation with. And Ajola is going to be speaking to these conversations as touching the West African continent and the West African region of the African continent. And so without further ado, Ajola, we're going to go straight into the conversation. I hope I pronounce your name well.
It's Ajola.
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 Yeah.
My apologies.
Yeah.
Ajola.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so the first question I want us to dig into is, how do you navigate, or how did you navigate the complex regulatory environment in West Africa, including the tariffs, the trade barriers, and the legal requirements as at when you started your business and even up until now that you have run your business for some years?
Right. I think that's a very on-point question. Now, the thing is, you don't realize that you're in a completely different terrain. You're in a different physical terrain. It's different geographically. But I think that normally when we search for information on starting businesses, wherever they may be, they're in a centralized location. And the theme of the information is sourced dealing with, businesses in the Occident, meaning that in the West. So although they might be similar, it's not exactly the same. Now, what I've come to find out is that there's a lot of information here, meaning that from our government institutions, we also have institutions that are ready to give you information on your business. But the problem I found out was that you can't find them. It's not easy to know how to access them or who to talk to, because anywhere else in the world, I can make a Google search and say, guidelines for agro-processing, most likely my search will come up with an institution, an office, or whatever else that can give me some guidance. So what I've realized is that it's very difficult, although there's already a lot of information, there are these institutions to access them. And a lot of what I had was that having people that are already doing something on the ground, meaning local partnerships. Whether you're starting an agribusiness or agriculture or whatever, it's always important to look at people that are already doing it, meaning fellow entrepreneurs who are already on the ground. And sometimes their stories can give you some guidance and they look, go here and here and there. But really, when it comes to the tariffs and it comes to the regulation, what I found is that unfortunately, sourcing the information from either online or trying to get the data in any other way has been really difficult, unless our countries get very serious at having centralized information and accessible to people. It's going to be hard. So I found that having to go directly to ministry, so you have to be willing to do the legwork. I think in other parts of the world, you have it's a luxury to say, you know what, I'm going to sit at my computer or make a few phone calls and something's going to come up. Here, you have to do the physical legwork. Look up where your Ministry of Agriculture is. Make an appointment. Go there. You can't make an appointment, just physically go there. We have a Chamber of Commerce. Every country has a Chamber of Commerce. And this body represents, it's a body to represent businesses for information. And they're the first point of contact for anything. Go to your Chamber of Commerce, sign up, become a member. And I know that sometimes these things seem kind of tedious. You're like, I have to go there. I have to see this person. I went there today. They're not there. Yes, it's tedious. It's time consuming today. But most likely the information they have, guess what? It's going to save you not a time in the future. To put it plainly, a lot of money. So in order to avoid a repetitive mistake, a mistake that's going to cost you in the future, what I found that within our region still, in our developing infrastructure and stratosphere of sourcing everything online, they're working on it. You have to be willing to physically get up and go out and speak to those that are in the institutions that they have the information that's there. So for me, and also the good thing about, or the difference, if in other parts of the world you're sitting at a computer, now if I have a chance to sit directly at the ministry or at the Chamber of Commerce, guess what? I also now have a chance to speak to a person and explain to them what I'm trying to do. And although some tariffs and regulations might be, you say, wow, they said, no, no, this might be the tariff and the regulation right now, but there have been some amendments, or there is another way, meaning that given your kind of business, what can we do? So, this is the benefit of going to see somebody. In other parts of the world, you can launch a business from your desk. But here, physically going to a single business window that was implemented by the World Bank some years ago in the West African terrain, it gives you another perspective. The people that are there, they get to give you guidance, and you're saving time. So really, when I say that, people tend to think that, okay, it might seem a bit complicated here, but due diligence means that you have to really do the work. And I think as you're doing the work, you'll meet other people that have done that same, or they say, look, we've had other entrepreneurs or other businesses who come through. They had a similar case as you. This is how they did it. So I think, when people talk about sort of business adversity, what they're talking about is convenience. And that convenience will come with time. But if you are launching a business here or want to implant, you have to be willing to do that extra. That's not extra. It's actually what you should do for every business, but to physically be present, ask the right questions, and show your face. So I think for me, also dealing with tariffs and regulations, some regulations, when you read them in the book, it's a bit funny. And when you, in implementation, it's very different. Implementation of a regulation is so different because some things cannot be implemented the way that they were signed in the accord. So it's really important for you to be face to face with the people that are the stewards of these regulations, really. And I think that there's a lot of flexibility because it's about, promoting a free market economy. So, but if you're just sitting behind your desk or you make a phone call, it's going to be complicated. You're not going to, and when you go to meet people in different offices, you then realize you have allies. They say, oh, yeah, okay, it's the farm girl. Yeah, it's the farm girl. How did that thing go? You said, I'm working it like this. Okay, so really, I think in our terrain, it's really important to partner up with people that know already what they're doing, that have been doing it. But to say that the institutions are there, the information is there, but guess what? You can't just get it from a click away.
Thank you so much, Ajola. This is so beautiful. I love that you emphasize the need for us as entrepreneurs to do the legwork. And we are still in a developing market as well as a developing economy. So it's important that we understand that we don't have all of this information at the click of a finger. The other part of this I want to emphasize is that we must have an understanding as entrepreneurs that beyond interacting with the guys who are currently in charge of the chambers of commerce, the ministries of agriculture, the ministry of whatever industry you're in, it's also that you're going there physically. You should have at the back of your mind that someday you are going to be part of those engaging the stakeholders. So if you have a stakeholder engagement mentality, it will make you step out and get to the places where these conversations are being held. Because of course, if we are not part of those conversations, we can frame the policies that we need in Africa to build thriving businesses. And this cuts across every industry. So that means as entrepreneurs, it's not enough to sort of just tick and implement or comply with the policies that are created for us to do business. It's important that our legs are in there to be those shaping the policies and guiding the implementation. I think that's another way to read it as to why you should step out and go into these places.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Right. I think that because if you read the regulation, if you have someone in front of you, you can tell them, you say, look, I see your regulation, but that's impossible for somebody like me because maybe your regulation is asking for an entrepreneur or a company to have a minimum of 250,000 US dollars. You say, well, at this point, we're not at this threshold. What can we do? So And you're saying many of my fellow entrepreneurs cannot be at this threshold. Something has to be done, because if you're requesting for the entrepreneurs to be at this threshold, basically you're saying that we're not trying for this industry to flourish. So again, if you don't speak up, if you don't say you have a problem with something, they will know you have a problem with it. They will simply say, well, we made these regulations and no one has said anything, so it must be okay. We simply have no entrepreneurs that want to do this business. So, and you find that sometimes even with the large international partners, they have thresholds for businesses or for grants at something at 25 million US dollars. So you're saying, okay, that's great, but I'm not there yet. Sure, maybe one day I would like to be there, but I am not at the threshold where I can sign documents for any kind of grant or any kind of co-loan or co-financing of $25 million. If I'm saying that my threshold is at 5 million, so what they think in turn, they think, well, there's nobody in that country that can handle a 25 million co-financing project. That's not the truth. The truth is maybe the guidance that we need or to the workaround we need to get us to that level is not there yet. So again, it's really important as entrepreneurs. You're doing a great job as an entrepreneur, solving a problem, creating services people need, creating products people need. But it's important that those that are the stewards, they are the stewards of these regulations. That's all they are. See you. Because if I don't know your problem, I can't help you. So really, you have to speak up for yourself and speak up for your fellow entrepreneurs. And really, what is an entrepreneur in this terrain? In West Africa, most likely it means you're a pioneer. It means you're the first doing this. So you're really by yourself. And nobody will understand your headache or your problem more than you, because nobody's ever done it. So do yourself a favor, let them see you, be in their face, be insistent, be polite, be respectful, because at the end of the day, they also serve a part of it's like the spokes of a bicycle. Each bicycle spoke has it's important to keep the bike tire up. So these stakeholders, as you said, Madame, tomorrow you will need to discuss with them. So tomorrow, when you want to influence policy, it's them that you negotiate with.
Thank you so very much. So how did you navigate the diverse cultural and linguistic landscape in West Africa to effectively penetrate the market?
Okay, this is, I have to say, when I discuss any time with possible foreign investors regarding their a sense of risk in investing in Africa, I think what they're really saying is that they don't quite understand the culture, or they don't give credit to that there is a culture of its own. In business school, you're taught how to do business, right? How to manage business. But there's also a unique skill set in every area, how to manage the business there. Because I think what happens on the most part, we tend to overlook that there's a way and a cultural way of doing business and expectations within this region. And, it's so nice when we say, in general, we don't see differences. When you say we don't see differences, I think from a humanitarian point of view, it sounds beautiful. But I think from a business point of view, seeing and appreciating our differences, guess what? It's very important for your customers. It's very important with your clients. It's very important for your business and its growth. So I think really, I can tell you in the beginning, I came in with a very different mentality. I saw myself as this, I was a New Yorker through and through, traveled, worked on Wall Street. You have this sense that, hey, I think I know what I'm doing, because I've been in those high pressured rooms. I know how to deal with things. Well, I think that that's disingenuous, because when you come, you really don't give people credit here to say, guess what? They more than know what they're doing. They're beyond intelligent, beyond innovative, because you're not even giving them a chance. You're simply saying, I know. And you're cutting off your feet even before you start the race. So I think for entrepreneurs, you really have to come in saying, I don't know anything, or the system I know. and give credit to where it's due and say that there's a completely different system here. It might not look like what I know, but it works. And let's try to see how to adapt ourselves. Culturally here, it might seem like a religious thing, but it's also culture. Fridays are almost a half day. So you really have to adjust your business that your important meetings are not towards the end of the week. You're not trying to sign any contracts on a Friday. You're not doing any banking or any transfers on a Friday. So really taking into account that we have a difference in culture, and that's a beautiful thing. So I had to knock my head against the wall a couple of times. There is a system already in place. And you as the entrepreneur, you're the one that has to be flexible. Don't come in saying, oh, it's my thing, it's my business, it's my company. Yeah, but you're doing it in this environment. And these are your clients. This is your staff, and this is your marketing. And whether you're doing it in the West African region, tomorrow you want your company to surpass this region. Well, guess who's going to talk about it? The people that are here. If they're going to promote you, yes or no, depending on how you are. So I think really it's important for us to appreciate the differences, and really that it also helped us to specialize the things that we did here when it comes to dealing with our different clients or even our staff, because we're a farming company, so we work in different regions, in rural areas. So how you come in, I can tell you that in our very first farm, yes, we own our farm, all legal, all paperwork, that's nice. But before we started our farm, we went to the village elder and I came to discuss with them, and I call them mother, I call them father. By any other, they're not my mother, they're not my father, they're not my family. But I had to say Baba and Mama. I came to them, to the house, the first house that was built in that village. I came to see them, and then everybody was around. I bought some cola nuts, and I asked them, I said, look, we might be the ones starting this company here, this business here, but this is your place. And with your prayers and with your permission, we believe you'll be successful here. And with your assistance, if we ever need anything, we would like to come to you first. And if in any way any of us are offended because maybe we don't understand something, please talk to us. Please tell us, because we are maybe like children. So, it's very important for you to humble yourself and understand that there's more going on beyond your company, beyond you being an entrepreneur, beyond your ambition. And embracing them in a way that works for you.
Thank you so much, Ajola. Thank you so very much, Ajola. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I loved when she was saying that, yeah, despite being a New Yorker, worked in Wall Street and all of that, came back to Africa, she had to appreciate the ingenuity of Africans. Because there's something about that ingenuity that is always disregarded by us Africans, but is always in high demand when it's globally. And as entrepreneurs, we can take that cue at every point in time. As entrepreneurs, we must understand that the ingenuity, the Black intelligence of us as Africans is something to be studied. She talked about the innovation. She talked about how that these things work. We need to just understand how it works and then just layer on top of it with maybe some level of innovation you may have imported from wherever you're coming from. But she also did mention you must pay attention to the locals. I loved how she said they had to go see where the elders were, sort of make them realize that we're not taking from you, we're trying to add to you. And
exactly.
We're building together. I love that. That's wisdom. Because if you're going to build,
if I can just
go ahead, darling.
If I can just add to that, so I think on one of our first growing seasons, at that time, we were still setting up the infrastructure for the farm. So we decided to do a growing program of cassava. We were doing 5 hectares of cassava, and we were told where to basically source the best cassava stalks. So we went to a small village, and there was a small house. It's a mud house, and went in, greeted, and you have to go through the house. And as you go through the house, then this vast area opens up. It's a farm, and I saw an elderly woman there. Elderly woman. If you didn't pay attention, you would have disregarded her. She was just a small elderly woman, and I came to her. I greeted her. I told her that we came to buy stalks, cassava stalks, the young ones. She said, "Yeah, no problem." And then she was looking at me, and I know I looked a bit different. She said, "What are you doing here with these men?" I said, "I'm the farmer." She said, "You're the farmer?" I said, "Yes." She said, "You, a young woman like you, what are you doing? You're farming?" I said, "Yes, I'm the one buying the cassava stalks." She said, "Hmm." She didn't say much. So as they were collecting, she was quiet and she was watching me. She started to ask me about myself, about my life, my family, and why. And I talked with her openly and very honestly. I probably shared with her what I didn't share with my own mother. And she said, "Okay." So just as we were finishing up, she came to me and wrapped in an old cement paper was something that is a tuber. A tuber, guys, belongs to the family of cassavas, tubers and potatoes. And I looked at it. I said, "Okay." She said, "You see this?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Before, just after you made the holes for the cassava stalks, you take this and you cut it and you put it in the water. You let it soak, and then after you spray it on you put it on the holes and let it sit just before you put in the cassava stalks." I looked at it. I looked at her. She goes, "It's gonna be fine." So I realized that at that moment she had been watching me to see if I was there in earnest, and for her, giving me this knowledge. And I think this is the important thing about discounting indigenous knowledge and information, because you can't find that in a book. But the tuber she gave me allows my cassava to grow in hyperdrive. They grew beautifully. They were just unbelievable. If you can say that they were shampoo and conditioner, that must have been it. But again, this is knowledge that this lady, God forbid, in her age, if she doesn't have anybody with her, this knowledge is going to disappear. And now we're at a
Yes.
time where we're trying to move away from chemicals. We're trying to move away from anything that's synthetic. So it doesn't make sense anymore. So that's a tuber. It's not magic. It's not anything. It's just another tuber in the same family that she said, if you do it like this, it really helps your cassava, which is also another tuber, to grow better. So again, we can't discount our indigenous knowledge, because really there's such a wealth there, especially now where we are in the world. And you have majority of large international multinational companies are saying, guys, we made a mistake with what we did, that we only have singular types of food staples available. We want to go back and explore indigenous food staples, because we found that they're more fortified with nutrients. We found that they're better for the human gut. So really, this is just a little story about, again, respecting our cultural differences. And if I had entered her house like a customer and saying, "I have my money, give me my stocks," I don't think I would have gotten this precious knowledge. So that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajola. This is one of the reasons I love to speak with her. She comes with a
Yeah.
depth of experience, but also the practicality of what it means to be a business owner in Africa. Thank you so much. Wow, look at that. She said if she had come as just a business owner, I have my money, I want to do all of those transactions, she would have missed out on a critical information that may have just died with that woman as she goes to her grave, and nobody would ever know.
Mm-hmm.
And there you were, you'll be
No.
looking for chemicals to spray your farm when everybody's trying to run
Exactly.
something. Oh, wow. Thank you.
That's true.
How then do you, or what strategies did you have in place to address challenges related to poor infrastructure in West Africa, e.g., power supply and transportation?
This is my favorite question. This is my favorite question because I'm guilty of it. So we as entrepreneurs we look, first, we are very observant. We look outwards and we see a problem, we solve it. But now the problem is that when we're solving it, we tend to focus on what we're doing. And that's why I said agriculture is a business, and it certainly is an industry. So I believe that if I had set up an amazing infrastructure within my farms, I was okay. I'm like, we've made this farm as modern as it could be. We have Wi-Fi. We had a rain shower because we wanted our staff to have, to feel comfortable. You were happy to be there. We said we have a rain shower. We have everything you need. We have TV. We have flat screens. You want to feel good. We wanted our staff to feel good when you're there. And okay, that's great. We looked at our produce. It looks beautiful. Everything's fantastic. I think when we first started really sourcing, we didn't realize the I'm talking about in huge tons. So they had been searching for companies that had the infrastructure, meaning that a farm where it's large enough, there's enough water, secure water, because we have a borehole, we have reservoirs, we have a staff, we have fencing, we have security, all these other things. And we all signed, we signed it that day at the farm. Everybody was happy. And everything's going well. Until the moment of just before harvest, this company started looking at where they would store the okra just before it flew out to Norway. I know everyone's asking me, why do people in Norway eat okra? I really don't know. That's for another live stream. But they wanted okra. So the problem was that where do they keep the okra once it's left our farm, just before it gets to the airport? We found out that cold rooms were supposedly built, but they were not available to us because not enough cold rooms were built. There was already one company that had the monopoly on that. So that's when we realized infrastructure in every way affects us, because although we were not that far from the airport, we were still not that close. The road network we had at that time, it's still difficult. It is only now at this moment that we are expanding our road networks properly, to have proper highways, so this is coming now. So that's when we realized, okay, what do we do on the farm? We got an inverter. We were already using solar, but now we added inverters and more solar panels. What can you do? A container, a 20-foot container with a fan in it, just to keep it cool. Now, these things work for a short time, but they won't work for a long time because it's not the way it's supposed to be done. If this is a serious business in a serious industry, our infrastructure has to be on point. So I used to be the person that said, we're talking about we need funding for infrastructure. I'm like, no, you have to fund agriculture first. I didn't realize that agriculture was also on par with infrastructure. It's only now that I know that they go hand in hand. Even though everything can be perfect on our farms, once they leave the farm or before they leave the farm, what do? When we have to substitute for the infrastructure, everything becomes very expensive for us. And unfortunately, when we started our business, it's really a social entrepreneurship, because we didn't want to make things expensive. We wanted to produce good things, but make sure it was affordable to everybody. And the way as a business we would make money is by volume. Now, if I have to basically replicate an infrastructure in a country, step by step, that's very expensive. So now you have my single tomato, my single green pepper, my okras that were supposed to go to Norway are going to be more expensive. Sure, maybe the Norwegians can afford a more expensive okra, I'm sure, because what they're getting is being grown in a place where we're making sure we don't use chemicals to deal with pests. We use organic pest management techniques and other things. But nevertheless, Our first focus wasn't to sell to Norway or sell out. Our first focus was having good things, export quality in the local market. Why should it always be a differentiation that, oh, export quality looks this beautiful, it's this good, it's, well, guess what? The people in the country also want good things. They deserve to eat well. They deserve to eat vegetables and fruits that are not dipped in pesticides and things like that. So for us, we said it's a better business sense. Guess what? If we have the same behavior for everything all across the board, if all of our produce is export quality, that makes life easier because everybody at the on the farm, the staff, we all operate from the same mentality. We're just making the most exceptional green pepper we can. But unfortunately, infrastructure meant that we have to build it out. Again, you have to be innovative. You've got to figure it out. So here you are getting containers, 20-foot containers. You put them on the farm. You have to adjust them, putting fans on them. At one point, we even had an AC. So we had an AC, it wasn't enough. We had an AC in the staff room. We took the AC out of the staff room and put it in the container because I'm like, look, you know, if you imagine how much, look, what we're working on is so fragile. I tell people all the time, I said, God forbid, you can take a baby and put them on the farm and walk away because within moments, the baby will start screaming. Somebody will hear the baby and come. Unfortunately, if you've been caring for our produce for 4 days and day 5, day 6, day 7, you stop, what do you think is going to happen? The green peppers can't scream. Those 4 days of care, now with the 3 days of non-care, you'll see the difference. Right away, you lose all your hard work. And every time we had a growing program, it costs a lot of money. We sit and plan out what we're growing. We buy the seeds, we buy everything. That's a lot of money we invest right away. So our staff had to sit without AC so that the okra can be chilled. So these are the kinds of things you have to do. And yeah.
I love it. I love it. So the okra, I was going to know we needed some air conditioners to be able to get to know.
Yeah. we had to stay hot. No.
I love it. How were you able to differentiate your product or services in a crowded and competitive marketplace like West Africa?
Right. So I think starting out, I said that I'm not growing everything. Every time people meet me as a farmer, they say, "Oh, what do you have at your farm?" I said, "Oh, I have this, I have that." In fact, that's not the most interesting question for me because I can grow anything, but I don't grow everything. And I tell them, they said, "Do you have everything?" I said, "No, I don't want to have everything because we want to be very good at a few things." We found that the issue here was consistent quality. So what we found was that when we met with hotel owners, fine dining restaurants, convention centers, anybody, they would sympathize with us. They say, "Look, we love what you're doing. We want to support you." But nobody wants charity. You don't want someone to feel sorry for you. That only works, I think, 1%, not even 1% of the time. And we realized, guess what? We wanted to show them a local produce that looked good, that tasted good. Because when their clients have to consume that, they're paying money. So we said, we want to be consistently good at a couple of things. So if our clients know that anytime you're buying green peppers in Gambia or in Senegal or in the areas that we are, it's GrowHer, fine. I don't ever have to worry if someone's going to buy our green peppers. It's gone before we even harvest them. So the idea is that how did we differentiate ourselves in a crowded market? By being consistent quality and being consistently available. Because sometimes, you go and source a new client. You say, "Look, we would like you to sign with us. We're going to do this business with you." Fine. Okay. The first time you were able to give them what they needed. They asked for, I don't know, 50 kilos of this. You brought it on time. Second time, oh, well, it doesn't look the same. You don't have 100 kilos this time. So at the end of the day, it's not the big, amazing thing we did. It was that we said, we're just going to be consistent with our quality. Now, on top of that, we have to understand that, the market in West Africa, when I say market, I talk about the clients and the consumers. You know how before we focused on export quality, sort of the best looking one goes out and the rest stays in? That's changed. Overall, the mentality of African people, Africans in general, has changed to say that we deserve better. We want to consume better. Generally, the population cares about their well-being. People want to live longer. They want to change how they consume. They're interested in enhancing their diets now. And it has nothing to do with just a socioeconomic background to say, oh, whether it's poverty or not, in general. So what we've done is that we've created a brand to say that, look, we are a local brand. What we're trying to do is make sure there's something good coming out of this country. A brand that's associated with hard work, that's trying something different, that's making sure that we are giving you something good, and we don't fluctuate the prices. Unfortunately, what we saw is that anytime there was a religious season, whether we're in Lent now, whether it's in Ramadan, whether any holiday coming up, we would see all of a sudden the prices of produce go up for absolutely no reason. Is it really merited? So we said we're a company that wouldn't do that. So we'll work on volume. What we did is that with our brand, we just don't give you, we also deliveries. We don't just give you vegetables. So we branded aprons made of locally made cotton. We branded shopping bags made of cotton with our brand. Some of our clients, their other, they can afford this niche product. We made cutting boards, made locally made. Everything we made from the same regions where our farms were, these where they made them to help to sort of bring in income. And that's the story. So whenever we were delivering to the embassies, it's a package. We would offer you an apron, you have the t-shirt, you have we're just not giving you things you can't use. There's a cutting board. You have to cut our vegetables. We said that, look, if you're willing to use the same basket we gave you, we'll give you a discount. So really that, look, there's this brand and there's a story behind this and who we are. And I think if you want to separate yourself, give the customers or the clients that value. But all the free t-shirts, all the aprons in the world will not keep the clients if you don't give good customer service. If you're not offering a good quality, number one is what you're offering the best of the quality. That's it. Most of the time you don't have to sell. When it says it sells for itself, that's your number one priority. That whatever you're selling right away, before all the extra things, it's already good. And I think that's really it, and customer service. So, it's how you retain the people. Because at the end of the day, I'm sorry to say it, this is not rocket science. It's green pepper. But what's the difference? No, it's green pepper. Let's just call it what it is. But what's the difference? At least you have the peace of mind to say, oh, when we go to GrowHer, I know they always have this available. I know that there isn't a long story coming. I also know that every time it's the same green pepper I've ever had. So I'm not going to get a funny looking one and then get charged the same price. So that's really it. And I think that's how you stay in business.
Thank you so very much, Ajola.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How were you able to manage distribution from your local region to other parts of Africa? Because I noticed earlier you were talking about infrastructure challenges as far as transportation.
Right.
So far, how have you managed it?
Right. So I think that infrastructure is part of our developing scene. It's coming up. But another thing is that we realized perhaps we couldn't manage all the logistics ourselves. That's one. So where we saw partners that are already doing logistics, there are some people that are already doing logistics. It's because it makes sense here with deliveries. They have the motorbikes. They already have the entire. It's already there. So we started doing it ourselves. Then we said, whoa, this is kind of taking away from our core value or what we're trying to do. This is not our product. It's not our service. So let's partner up with those that are already doing it. They already have all the resources, meaning they have the motorbikes, they have the refrigerated trucks, and work with them and see how to give them a percentage of what we're doing. The other thing that we did is that we can't be everywhere and go to everybody. So we basically made drop-off points to say that, okay, everybody living in this area for your, as we said, like with the embassies, and we have other clients, private clients, household. We said, okay, we have a location, we have a cafe. A cafe is where we sell them produce. They were willing to let us leave our other produce for our clients to pick up. Now, this was at first, when I first presented this idea, they didn't like it. They were like, well, we're a cafe. We're not an Amazon pickup. I'm like, I understand that. I said, but guess what? If my clients are coming to your cafe to pick up their produce, guess what's going to happen? They're going to buy some coffee. They'll buy a latte, a cappuccino. They'll buy stuff. They'll start coming. Most of the time, they'll have a seat. And I did the same thing with other places that were maybe not fine dining, but like a mix between like a fast food restaurant or vegan. We have these sort of mix of healthy fast food places that do smoothies. I always, my company gives them, from beetroots to all these other special things they need. So when I told them, look, every time they come to pick up something, they're most likely going to buy something from you. They said, yeah, okay. So they saw how that worked. Again, we couldn't afford the rental space. I said, I'll give you a discount on your beetroots or whatever else, and then you can just house this for us. That's it. So really keeping it fresh, meaning that we tell our clients ahead, look, this is about to be harvested. We have 3 days away from harvest. It's going to arrive in your area at this time, and they pick it up. So we're really trying to keep it as fresh as possible, meaning that we're relying less on stockage, less on on electricity, less on refrigeration or anything like that. Again, working with partners who are already doing logistics. We're like, look, you have your truck. It's got to go to Casamance, which is a region between Gambia and Senegal. Okay, can we have a space there? That's basically it. I mean, you're going anyway, right? So here, just tag us on. Fine. So I think really, again, as entrepreneurs, don't try to replicate a business that's already been done. If someone else is doing it, we need to know how to collaborate. It's a collabo. It's very important. You're going to burn yourself out doing everything.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jallow. Thank you so much. How are you able to address the financial constraints that came with the business decision to penetrate West Africa? Because from hearing you, your farm is it's a high-end farm. I mean, a farm where we can watch TV, we can catch up on soccer and all kinds of things. How were you able to manage financial constraints?
Okay. There's no easy way to say this. The gains outweigh the risks. The risks and the costs are heavy on the onset, but they're only one-time costs. Now, that's the beauty of agriculture. It's a one-time cost. So if you're going to do it right the first time. And I think for many businesses, if you're thinking about opportunity costs, people always look for shortcuts. They're like, oh, I don't want to spend this. I don't want to spend that. In the beginning, you feel like taking shortcuts. Unfortunately, those costs add up in the end. So when we were setting up our infrastructure, making sure that we get the best engineers for the borehole that knew what they were doing, it costs more money. But in the end, you basically have service that is almost guaranteed. You can't have any guarantees, but almost guaranteed. Making sure you pay for better quality, a better quality borehole, a better quality work. All of these things, one time, they seem expensive, but over time, you say, I don't have to replace it. I've had fellow entrepreneurs that say, you know what? Oh, yours was too expensive. They've already had to replace their boreholes and the other things they've done 2 or 3 times already. So it's really important for us to, how do you see costs? How do you count costs? Opportunity cost, it encapsulates everything. Your time. When your borehole or your other machines are not working, the cost you're losing is the market that you could have had, the contracts that you could have signed. So I think really we have to look at that. At the end of the day, one thing that we talk about, the cost of doing business in Africa, or in this region, West Africa, it's a mentality for me. There's a cost of doing business everywhere. It's a mentality. For some reason, we have this perceived risk, this perceived idea that the costs are so heavy, is it worth it? And the truth is, this is the only part of the world, this is the only place in the world, West Africa, look to our cousins in the East, anywhere else where profits are being measured at 500% and more. I'm being conservative by saying 500%. It's more like 1,500%. There's nowhere else in the world where you are measuring profits at 500%. So tell us, where is the risk? Again, every time you say West Africa, Africa, we say, oh, our young population. Our young population is a young, large population, but it's a large population with purchasing power. That population, they're customers, they're clients, they're your future customers and clients. Each and every one of them has the power of purchase. So this is the market for the world at the end of the day. So when you talk about the financial risks of starting a business, I think there's a perceived risk in the mentality. And I think this might lead to your next question about probably instability. But if you think about it, just looking at this again, yeah, again, you're in a market where you're going to be the first one doing something that's needed. That makes you a market leader. Most likely, you're the one setting the pace. You're the one setting the price. And on your way of being the pioneer, being the first, those gems of knowledge that you figured out how to do things, that becomes so invaluable to everybody else coming. Because guess what? In business, you have to be okay with having competitors. That's what a business is. So really, for me, I think this sense of risk adversity, it's a mentality. And I always say, if not now, when? You know, if you don't do this business in Africa, I don't know where else you're going to do it, because it's not saturated here. So, but there is no other way to answer this. And in every single business, all around the world, there's risk. But when you're here, you're implementing things that you're like, wow, it's really needed. What's the risk in that? It's needed. It's not been done. So
I love it.
I know I sound very, 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 very.
No, I mean, I wouldn't have
very optimistic, but it's true.
That's the only way to see it. I think that a lot of times when we paint the downsides of doing business in Africa, I always ask people in comparison to what?
Right. So I'm just going to finish up on this. So I was an investment banker. I worked literally on Wall Street, not near Wall Street, in Wall Street, fixed income desk. This is a very high risk work. Nanoseconds, things change. At the end of the day, I would stand there with my colleagues and discuss with them how, you know, when you talk about risk, the risk of doing, when they say perceived risk, and you have to realize that we've had several recessions. All of those recessions, where did they originate from? Was it here in West Africa? Was it from the agricultural sector or any other sector, or anybody else doing anything else here? Were we the ones that had the ripples on the global economy? Contrary to what was happening, those companies that had been embedded in Africa, in West Africa here, they were fine, because they were creating services, selling services and products and businesses that were needed here on the continent, here in this terrain. So irrespective of the global shock that was being felt everywhere else in the world, they were marking profits of 1,000 to 1,500, 2,000%. Now that is the truth that we're talking about. So this is why I say every time we talk about financial risk in Africa, it's a mentality that needs to be gotten over. It's that simple.
I love it. I love it. With very huge emphasis on the agricultural sector. If we have a lot of entrepreneurs who are focused on ditching synthetic use of chemicals and materials to grow their agricultural produce, and they are focused on feeding us as Africans, as opposed to the huge focus on the international market because of FX, you would find that would hardly be affected by everything going on in the global economy, because we don't have enough food within Africa. right? If you see what I'm saying.
Exactly.
If Ajola is saying that as much as I want to export to countries like Norway who are desperately looking for okra, which is great, but I also want to provide these staples at a reasonable quality, reasonable price so all of us as Africans, because we actually do need it. So if she's focused on using resources within the continent and servicing those within the continent, you would find that whatever is going on in the external markets will not have a huge impact
Exactly.
on her business, and she can keep churning out
Exactly.
hundreds of percentage in profit, right? And I think
Exactly. That's true.
yeah, I think that beyond the agricultural sector, we may now need to look at its applicability to other sectors, because there's some other sectors
Right.
within the continent that may not necessarily be able to do without import for a while, because most of those raw materials they use, we don't generate within the country, right? So I think that the only point from here is all of us should be farmers in Africa, literally. I'm serious.
Yeah.
All of us should be
I
farmers.
think whatever you're doing, you can agriculture is something that it's the ultimate companion. No matter what
Yeah,
else you're doing. And I'd like to tell
yeah.
a story, which was that there's a young lady here. She's a beauty queen, but beyond the beauty queen, she's literally won the award as a beauty queen. She's extremely intelligent, wonderful young lady, and she's a beauty queen. And I was talking to her about my work. She's like, "I'm gonna start farming." She's farming. So I always like to tell this story because I'm like, it seems like two completely different things, but it's all together. She's like, I'm going to start farming because I really care about what I eat and I love it because it's fun. I want to be outside. Okay, those are her reasons. Are they any less justified than my reasons? Not at all. So really, I think it's a activity, it's a business, it's anything. It goes with everything. But nevertheless, as you said, can I replicate this? And it's really important to say, can we do trade with each other?
Yes,
Because
I was going to
although
say that.
yes,
Yes,
exactly. I
barter
might sign
system.
contracts with
Yes,
yeah, I might sign
go ahead.
contracts with Norway, but that's not happening every day. But if we're selling to each other, as a business, you're interested in reoccurring cash flows, the cash flows that come every day. That's more important to me than, once in a while you get that big contracts. We like those, but the everyday recurring cash flows, which when you have trade within the region, that's how you build a business. That's how you build an empire. That's how you build a legacy through the network of doing business within our region. So that's it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
From experience, can you provide our members with what to expect while penetrating West Africa in terms of market size, demographics, and then customer behavior?
Okay. Well, I'm going to keep it simple. The World Bank says by the year 2030, I guess for agribusiness, it's supposed to go up to 1 trillion. That's 1 trillion in dollars. So, I think really, if we just talk about that's 2030, that's what, 6 years away. Currently we're at 313 billion for the market size. So, when it comes to untapped land and resources, we know all of these numbers. Really, Africa, West Africa, whether it's West African region, we maintain fertile land. Two resources you can't replicate. You need land and you need water. We have that. And you need people. There's no agriculture without people. In fact, there's no business industry, none without people. So this is something that's very key. Every time they harbor on that our very large young population, I'm like, that is a benefit for us, a bonus for us. Really. And what's important about that, that's a resource for us. What they need guidance, they need the right tools, they need the right keys to access those opportunities that are there. Don't just say there's access to opportunities, give them the keys. Give them the keys by giving knowledge. Every time I'm saying I'm doing agriculture and I look around to all the women's gardens, I'm like, all these women's gardens haven't changed in the last 30 or 40 years. Why not? Because nobody gave them the keys, which was knowledge in agricultural technology. Just that, giving them, the knowledge on how to financially maintain themselves and say, guess what, guys? How do we become vested to think future-minded and make decisions like that? So when it comes to our resources and our youths, that's our resource, but give them the right keys. So we have the infrastructure is going to come up, because guess what? There isn't anywhere else any more roads to build in the US. We're going to maintain the roads, but we're not building new roads. There aren't any more new roads to build in Europe. We'll maintain them, but we're not building any more new roads. This is the only other place for infrastructure that's necessary at this time, and everybody knows it. So can I give you some numbers? No, I just want to talk to you that it just makes sense. 1 trillion, that's an estimate. It's supposed to shock you, and that's the truth. But, you can say I'm biased for agriculture, but guess what? Agriculture, any other service industry, whether it's textiles, it's still going to be the same. This is the place. So I think really as an entrepreneur, it's not about just solving a problem. When you're taking that step, understand that, look, I'm doing it in a place where it makes sense to do it. To say, I'm doing it here for a reason, because it makes sense. Not because I'm just saying, you know what, I'm African, I'm proud to do it here in West Africa, but because I'm doing it in an arena, in a spot where it's necessary. And I know that my chances that the service I'm offering, the products I'm offering are needed, it's extremely important, because that helps to calm you down. And I think as entrepreneurs, we tend to push, you're ambitious, you push yourself, you are your business in every single way. Just take a moment. Take a moment to do your research. Take a moment and write your business plan. Take a moment with the numbers. It's really important. Understand what you're offering. The service, if it's not agriculture, what service are you offering? And I'm going to ask you for a favor. Don't try to do everything, no matter how brilliant you are. Try to focus on niche businesses, because a jack of all trades sounds good, but eventually you end up being a master of none. And when you are the king or queen of what you do, it's unbelievable. Anybody and everybody wanting to do it is going to talk to you. You're going to do it seamlessly. So really, if you're offering a service as an entrepreneur or as a company or as a business, be really good at that one or two service. Be excellent at it. If it's another product, whatever you're doing, just be the best at that first, and then tack on other things. Because I find all too often, even myself, people say, oh, you know how to do this, you know how to do that. Why don't you do that? I'm like, that's for somebody else to do. So really, again, this is it. I mean, for 1 trillion, it's a rough estimate. 313 billion. So you have to understand every industry has a support, has a connection. Now, agriculture is important to me, because if I look at an industry that can somehow take on so many people and offer them a sustainable livelihood. Why? Because I don't care who you are, we have to eat every day. That's really it. It's very simple. So I'm basing my optimism on that. No matter what happens, AI is coming out with new robots now. We still have to eat. The robots might not have to eat, but we have to eat. So this is why I like this industry, because guess what? It's an industry that stays and an industry that's necessary. But farmers, they grow food, but farmers also sell the food because they need to buy stuff. So imagine now, when farmers start increasing their livelihood, what do you think happens to the other industries? They also go up, because my fellow farmers, they want to buy a fridge. They want to have a flat screen TV. They want to have Wi-Fi. They want their kids to go to good schools. It's the same. They also want to consume what everybody else has. So this is why, as this industry grows, everything around it grows. So this conversation is not just for people interested in being farmers. Agriculture is, if you're in the tech center area, if you're selling electronics, whatever you're doing, just see how all of our industries are connected. At the end of the day, what is this about? It's about increasing our ability to have a better life for ourselves. That's really it, here on this continent, without having to go anywhere else. If you want to go somewhere, you can go on holiday and come back. And if you do want to go, it's your choice, but not feeling forced to go. not feeling that you're in a situation where you have to leave. So it's saying that I can afford to have the kind of life I want with my children here. And I believe that's a dream that shouldn't be a dream, but a very real and tangible thing.
Thank you so much, Ajola. Finally, what has been the most rewarding part of this experience, and what would you do differently?
Okay. I think the most rewarding thing for me is that, again, I talked about very early on, we have to get everybody vested, meaning that they're all involved. Um, Sometimes I'm honored to speak on stages in different parts of the world, and they always say, "Oh, how do you encourage the youth?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, that's great, but it's not just the youth that are in the communities or in a country; it's everybody." Um, when I started my work, my parents have always been supportive. They believe in education and hard work. But when I started this agriculture journey, my mom was doing something else. She's a nurse, but she was doing another business. She was doing something else. And through my work, my commitment, and my passion, one day she said, "I get it." She goes, "This makes sense." I said, "What do you mean?" So at that time, we were negotiating whether or not to expand to other regions. Well, because my mother now completely understood the benefit of this business, the benefit of this industry called agriculture, the benefit of what I'm doing, she's vested. And she's the one who motivated us, pushed us, guided us to expand. So when I talk about, and she might not be you can say the audience that you say I spoke to, but she's from an older generation. And she said to me, "Wow, if I had known this before, we would have been farming a long time ago." So I think as entrepreneurs, as sometimes you're the first person in your family doing something, you have an idea, you have a thought, go ahead and do it. And although the people around you might not quite get it then, it's important to bring them on board in the way that you can. Let them be part of it in the way that you can. Keep your journey, because now she's the most vested person, and because of her, we were encouraged. She helped to mobilize us, and through her contacts, we were able to move to another region of the country. Because she knows the people there. So again, it's about, for me, that has to be the most amazing thing was getting my mom to be completely vested, that she's the person whose mind I've influenced the most regarding agriculture. And if I can say what I've learned, there's all this paperwork, right? There's always a paperwork that you have that you don't want to do sometimes. The legwork, the paperwork. I'm telling you, please, you can put some music on, get your favorite cup of tea or coffee. You know what you're doing. I don't know. However you want to do it, light some candles, but make that part of your journey. Make the paperwork part of your journey. Make the taking notes part of your journey, because it's very important that we understand that we're no longer just doing businesses just to survive. We're now in the era where we want to thrive. It's very rare that we've seen legacy businesses here in Africa. How many legacy businesses can we count? I'm extremely proud of him, and I think he's doing amazing work. And God bless him. But there should be more Dangotes. Mr. Dango. There should be more Dangotes. You know what I mean? You should be able to say more names than just to say Mr. Dangote and say, wow. So really, we should be having a plethora of names that you mention that can automatically say this is a legacy business. It connects you to that. In order to have a legacy, the business has to be beyond you, the entrepreneur, you, the founder, you, the creator. And in order for that to happen, the blueprint of your business has to be clear for anybody that comes in later on. Because there might come a time that you might be the founder now, you might be the everything today, but tomorrow you want to be sitting comfortably, happily, successfully somewhere in your penthouse, on your yacht, I don't know, on your private jet, and have the business moving smoothly without you. They might just call you for some advice. But in order for that to happen, there has to be a clear path, a clear blueprint of how this started, of how this works. So make those notes, make the paperwork so that when you bring in new talent to help you, because it's not glamorous doing everything by yourself, let's be honest. When you bring in new talent, they know what to do. They can look at the paperwork, they can look at that blueprint and say, okay, we see what's happening here. We see the recipe. Think of it like that. If you don't write the recipe, just like this lady who showed me this tuber, she showed it to me. What did I do? I took a photo. I wrote it down. I researched the tuber. That's what I did because I want to make sure I have this tuber. I want to make sure I keep this knowledge. I want to make sure that anybody else within our grower network, what's the benefit of being in our network? We can give you information. We can give you these keys. So really, I regret not writing as much as I did in the very beginning. So really, that's what I can say. So, and it's important if you're moving towards leaving a legacy and having a business that's going to succeed you for decades to come, a business that you can pass on to your family, pass on to your community. And really, you have to understand that at the end of the day, you don't own the business. Your employees become the ones that are owning it and everybody else. When people are proud of your work, you're part of a country. They're going to say, Mr. So-and-so from this country, Mr. Madam so-and-so from this region in West Africa. So they're the ones that own it. So then again, do the legwork, write it down, do the paperwork. It's very important.
Thank you so very much. Any final words for us as a community so that we can let you go?
Okay. I think truly, I wish I could say something really inspired. But all I can say is that in order for us to be the Africa we want, there's nothing for us to do than work. That's it. The Cinderella story here, it's us because we know the problems we're facing. We deal with it every day. Therefore, the solutions are with us, and we have to be willing to do the hard work. You know, we are still in a moment of development and infrastructure and growth. Our independence wasn't that long ago. 60 years is not a long time. 60, it's not a long time. We still have a trajectory of growth, and most of that is hard work. So unless we're willing to put in that hard work and be honest with ourselves and say, how do we work together and make this happen for ourselves here? It's going to take longer than it has to, and it doesn't have to anymore. And I always say that maybe our region is growing up at a time where it's the best time because China, other European countries, they had hundreds of years, but they didn't have the information we have now. They didn't have the technology we have now. We have access to all those things. So we don't have to run the race as hard as them. Let's use the information we have. Let's use the shortcuts we have now. You know, they did it. Why do we have to do the full circle again? So it can be seen two ways. But really, this Africa that we're in now, there was never a plan for it. You know, when you build a house, you have a foundation and a plan. We're working without a plan. So maybe this is why it looks like that. So give ourselves some grace as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as pioneers. Sometimes give yourself some grace and say, I'm doing the best I can because this thing wasn't planned. But with that in mind, it's worth the hard work. Because isn't it amazing when you do something here and it works? Yes. That feeling is amazing. Or when somebody tells you, I needed that, or thank you, it means so much more. And we deserve better. So we can do better for ourselves. That's really all I can say.
Thank you very much, Ajola. From all of us at the Association of African Startups, we love you. We honor you. And
thank you.
This edition, yet another mind-blowing edition. We look forward to many more communications with you, many more conversations, many more alliances with you. We are grateful to have you. God bless you. From all of us here in Nigeria and all the different nations represented here, we love you and go to the world. Thank you so very much.
Okay. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. as you represent the Francophone side of Africa also. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, see? Okay. Oh, you're welcome. Let's see. Oh.
Oh, I was just saying, thank you so much for joining today's class. She drops many nuggets that every one of us need to go listen to again on the YouTube channel. And as much as you can, share it with many people who want to learn different things just beyond even the agricultural sector. God bless you and take care.